She was born a slave, beaten and broken, but she escaped and went back to rescue hundreds more, without maps, without fear. This is the true story of Harriet Tubman, the girl who became a legend. She freed 300 slaves and still wasn't done. In war, she became a spy, a nurse, a hero. No money, no fame, just courage. This is the final chapter of Harriet Tubman's fight for freedom. In the early 1800s, in a dark time of pain and cruelty, a little girl was born into slavery in Maryland, USA. Her name was Araminta Ross, but the world would later know her as Harriet Tubman, the woman who became a symbol of courage, sacrifice, and hope. Harriet was not born free. She was born into a world where her body belonged to someone else. She could not go where she wanted. She could not learn to read. She could not speak freely. Even her dreams were not hers, because a slave had no right to dream. From the moment she could walk, Harriet was made to work. She was hired out to other people, whipped if she moved slowly, beaten if she cried, and starved when there was little food. She saw her brothers and sisters sold away, her mother helpless, and her father unable to protect them. It was a world where families were torn apart like animals. One day, when she was a teenager, something terrible happened. A slave had tried to run away. As punishment, his owner threw a heavy weight, and it hit Harriet's head instead. She almost died. For the rest of her life, she suffered from deep headaches and strange dreams. But those dreams became visions, and those visions made her believe that God had chosen her for a purpose, and that purpose was freedom. But freedom was not easy. If a slave tried to run, they could be caught, beaten, tortured, or killed. Yet Harriet was not afraid. She said to herself, "I had reasoned this out in my mind. There was one of two things I had a right to: liberty or death. If I could not have one, I would have the other." So one cold night in 1849, Harriet ran away. She left behind everything: her family, her home, her past. She followed the North Star, walked through forests, crossed rivers, and trusted strangers. Each step was filled with fear: dogs barking, slave catchers riding, danger in every shadow. But she made it. She reached the north. She was free. But Harriet did not rest. She did not forget. Her heart was still chained because her people were still in bondage. And so, though she was finally free, she chose to go back. She returned. Again, and again, and again. At a time when one mistake meant death, this brave woman became a conductor of the Underground Railroad, a secret path of safe houses and hidden routes that helped slaves escape to freedom. Harriet never used maps. She never learned to read. But she never lost a passenger, not even once. She carried a gun, not to kill, but to protect. Sometimes, scared slaves wanted to turn back. She would raise her gun and say, "You'll be free or die, but you will not go back." Because going back meant revealing the route, and revealing the route meant death for many. Harriet saved over 300 slaves in more than 13 trips, guiding them through forests, rivers, and darkness, always under the eyes of danger. She trusted God, and He gave her strength. She became a legend. But to the white slave owners, she was a ghost, a shadow, a curse. They placed a huge reward for her capture, but no one ever caught her. She moved in silence. She walked through fire, and she smiled through pain. Harriet Tubman, the slave girl with scars on her back and visions in her mind, had become Moses, the woman who led her people to freedom. But her journey was not yet over. Even after freeing hundreds of slaves, Harriet Tubman did not rest. She had no riches, no medals, and no house of gold. But she had something more powerful: a heart that refused to stop fighting. When the American Civil War began in 1861, Harriet saw it as a chance to help end slavery forever. She joined the Union Army, not as a soldier at first, but as a nurse, cook, and spy. She cared for wounded black soldiers, gave medicine to the sick, and entered enemy land to gather secrets. Most people didn't know this, but Harriet Tubman became the first woman in American history to lead a military raid. In 1863, she helped plan and lead the Combahee River Raid, which freed more than 700 slaves in one night. She wore no uniform, she held no official title, but her courage and knowledge of secret paths made her more powerful than many generals. After the war, Harriet hoped life would get better. But even in freedom, black people were treated unfairly. They had no rights, no money, and no land. And Harriet herself was poor. The government never paid her what she was owed for her work during the war. But she never stopped giving. She opened her small home to anyone in need. Poor children, old freed slaves, or anyone without shelter. Her house became a safe place once again, not to escape chains, but to find peace. Later in life, Harriet also fought for women's rights. She believed that black people deserved freedom, and so did women. She stood on stages, spoke to crowds, and told them her story. Not for fame, but to inspire change. Years passed. Her hair turned grey. Her steps slowed down. But her spirit never grew old. In 1913, at the age of about 90, Harriet Tubman took her last breath. She died in peace, surrounded by people who loved her. Her final words were, "I go to prepare a place for you." Even in death, she thought of others. Today, Harriet Tubman is remembered as a hero, a warrior, and a symbol of freedom. She was born a slave with no rights, but she died a legend with a name that history will never forget. Her legacy. More than 300 people found freedom because of her. She changed laws, lives, and hearts. She showed the world that one woman, even without money or education, can change the course of history. Harriet's story is not just about slavery or war. It is a story about bravery, sacrifice, love, and faith. It is about standing up when the world pushes you down. It is about going back into the fire, not for yourself, but for others. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to share it so her courage lives on in more hearts.